Well, thank you everyone. It's my pleasure to speak here today. So what I'd like to talk about is the emerging revolution in quantum technology through the advent of the diamond integrated quantum chip. And like the silicon microelectronics revolution of the 20th century, what this revolution is bringing is the future of miniaturized, ruggedized, manufacturable and mass deployable quantum technologies. And this enables a broader and a bigger future for quantum technologies than is offered by many existing technologies today. Those existing technologies in quantum are important and they'll play an important role, but they're ultimately limited in how they can be employed and utilised. So just like microelectronics, that bigger future can be where quantum is everywhere, where it's massively paralysed and deployed in data centres, through to edge computing and sensing in autonomous vehicles and robotics, through to diagnostics and development tools in biomedicine. But similar to the microelectronics revolution, which was brought about by the advent of the transistor in silicon, which was a fundamental technology block that was reproducible, that was miniaturizable, and which could be manufactured, we need a similar building block for such mass manufacturable and performant quantum technology. And the building block that we know, and is not new, but has been known for a long time, is the nitrogen vacancy center in diamond, which is a qubit system that on one hand is exquisite in its performance and its properties, and on the other hand is exceptionally engineerable. By exquisite, I mean there is fidelity operations, which are regularly above 99%. There's incredibly long coherence times of greater than a millisecond. And there is fast operations, which can be in excess of megahertz. And all of this at room temperature and pressure in a chip scale device. And if you cool this system down, you get an additional benefit, which is a coherent spin photon interface, which can be used to build quantum interconnects. Now, that is brilliant, but what makes it useful is that it's a practical engineering tool, that you can make devices of a variety of different architectures, which are different arrangements of these NV center qubits, which then can do different things, whether they're quantum sensing or computing or communications. And that versatility and that engineering flexibility is then what makes these technologies truly useful. And there's, at the moment, around the world, about 40 to 50 companies who are building diamond quantum technologies. And these range from very large companies, a variety of defence corporations, multinationals, such as Bosch and Fujitsu and others, right through to startup companies and everything in between. And they're building a very diverse range of technologies. Quantum repeaters, such as what LightSync developed and recently purchased by IonQ. Quantum computers, such as what's being developed by Fujitsu, by my company, Quantum Brilliance, and others, such as Seed. And then a variety of quantum sensing that ranges from microscopy, such as a quantum microscope by Qnami, through to medical imaging devices, such as a magnetocardiogram by Sandbox, all the way through to magnetometers that are used in a variety of applications, such as radio frequency receiving, magnetic anomaly detection, and navigation. And these are companies like Bosch and Phaser Quantum. Now, where the industry is at in diamond quantum technology is there's functional prototypes and early products across each of these. And you can see these on the right-hand side. So these are real devices which can really do things, and some of them look like products that can scale. Now, where we need to get to is taking these from these functional prototypes into products that can scale to meet mass markets. But what are those mass markets? So what I can do is I can talk through a few examples. So the first example is magnetic navigation. So this is where you take a very precise magnetometer to measure the local magnetic field, which you compare against a magnetic map in order to infer your position, and then you can navigate by fusing that with an inertial navigation system. So companies like Bosch have developed magnetometers, companies like Phaser Quantum and Detect have built other magnetometers, and indeed Phaser Quantum has demonstrated this magnetic navigation. So what you see at the bottom is the demonstration of magnetic navigation with sub 100 metre accuracy of a US military flight over the Pacific. For me, that's a real hello world moment where this technology is demonstrated meeting mission requirements. And so the question is now really, how do you take this technology and put it in all aircraft, not just that one US military flight? Now, if we turn our mind from sensing to computing, what demands mass? Well, one very clear application that demands mass is quantum machine learning. So to do quantum machine learning, you need to be able to do many training cycles and you need to be able to ingest much data. That's in training. And the only way to really do that is to have many parallel quantum computers in order to do that data and those training cycles. Then when it comes to deployment of that model, and you have to deal with, say, an enterprise of many users, you need to have many quantum computers which can actually respond to those many users who are polling that model. So the future of quantum machine learning is by definition one where you need mass parallelization. And so that's what we see as one of the key use cases of massively parallelized quantum computers. If we look at additional applications, so let's now turn to the biomedical space. So one company called Chromos has developed a neuroimaging chip based upon diamond. And what is the use case of this? Well, a barrier to the development of neuropharmaceuticals, such as those that treat Alzheimer's, is the ability to test at sufficient scale and sufficient speed different drug candidates and different doses of those drugs. What these chips enable is that you can actually solve that problem. By having many diamond neurosensing chips with many brain models grown on those diamonds and doing that in automation at scale, you can actually address this challenge that the pharmaceutical industry has. And what you can see there is an example of exactly that, where an automated machine with a neurosensing chip with a brain model that has been grown on that neurosensing chip. That is a future we need many of these chips to support many drugs and many tests. On the right-hand side, there's a further example about why parallelization is important in quantum computing. And that is in chemical simulations, such as those involved in molecular dynamics. So here we are talking about complex chemical systems of many interacting molecules, where those molecules are following classical trajectories and there's moments of chemistry. And in those moments of chemistry, you need a quantum mechanical solver. And here you need intrinsically a hybrid system to solve this. You need classical computers to solve the classical trajectories, and you need parallel quantum computers to address those moments of chemistry which are occurring within that chemical system. And so again, this now needs a hybrid and parallelized quantum computing system. So I've talked to you about where the industry is today and the draw that is taking it towards mass deployment and manufacturing. The key to enable that transition is the development of the integrated quantum chip. That is what will enable actually these technologies to address those markets and applications that they promise. This is what we do as a company at Quantum Brilliance. What we do is we make integrated quantum chips in diamond. And if we think about that chip and we break it open, inside that chip there is a diamond die and then there is electrical and optical components. And that diamond die is there on the left-hand side, and it is a stack of electrical photonic interfaces with the diamond and a diamond containing those nitrogen vacancy centers. Depending on how those NV centers are arranged and depending on those interfaces, that determines whether you've built a sensor or whether you've built a communication system or a quantum computer. And when we think about this future of building chips, what we did is we went out and we talked to a majority of those 40 to 50 diamond quantum technology companies, and we built roughly a consensus about what the future of chips would be in diamond quantum technologies. And so what we arrived at was a classification of three types of chips. A type 1 chip, which is characterised by those accessible materials today, and this technique called photoluminescent initialization and readout of the qubits in the diamond. That is what our quantum computers are that we build at Quantum Brilliance today, and that's what the devices that other companies build today in quantum sensing. But where we need to get to next is a type 2 chip. So this is where there has been a step change in the functionality of the diamond material, and there's also been the introduction of photoelectrical readout. That technique where instead of relying on catching every photon emitted by the NV center in order to achieve your sensitivity or your readout fidelity in computing, you are now relying on the capture of photocurrents by inherently more manufacturable electrical contacts on the diamond. And so this is that key step change that we see in manufacturability as one of the core technologies we've developed at Quantum Brilliance. Finally, a type 3 chip is what's necessary to get to quantum computing. And this is where you've taken the point of precision to the ultimate extent, where you now have atomic precision over the placement of those nitrogen vacancy centers and interfacing with those control electronics. To give you an example of what the implications of these are for, say, the development of type 2 chips for quantum sensors. So improvements in diamond material around, say, the orientation of the nitrogen vacancy centers, the charge stability of the NV centers, and then the ability to achieve manufacturable but still performant photoelectrical readout leads to a 10 to 100 times improvement in the sensitivities of those sensors at manufacturable scale. And so this is our key target in delivering type 2 quantum sensing chips. So that's what our core business is, and let me now talk to you a bit more about Quantum Brilliance. So we are a diamond quantum technology company really focused on that idea of delivering mass deployable quantum technologies to the world. We were founded in 2019 and we've grown to 90 to 100 staff, 50 of which are in Australia and 50 of which are in Germany. We have a variety of partners across sensing and computing and investors that range from the US, Australia, Europe and Japan. The core technologies that we've developed are in three broad areas. One area is in advanced diamond materials engineering, another is in integrated device development, and a third is in developing complete systems. And that has taught us what does it mean to actually build systems and sell and deploy them to customers, and the implications that then has all the way through to the design and development of integrated chips. And that distinguishing technology is there on the bottom, which is everything from those advanced materials to our 5 nanometer fab capability for nitrogen vacancy centers, through to our electro-optical devices, design tools for integrated chips in diamond, through to those computing systems that we do to demonstrate the capabilities we have. And if we just focus on quantum computing and what we've demonstrated there in terms of what we can achieve with these devices, this is a brief history of what we've done as a company. We focused on really learning what does it mean to build computing systems and deploy and integrate them, in addition to the core technology around the chips. We've deployed quantum computers to a variety of high-performance computing centers around the world, and most recently announced the deployment of a cluster of quantum computers to the Oak Ridge National Labs here in the US. What's coming next is the delivery of a mobile quantum computer to the Cybersecurity Agency in Germany, which will be towards that PCIe form factor, which will be a truly miniaturized and scalable quantum computer. Let's talk a little bit more about what we delivered to Oak Ridge. So in that Oak Ridge delivery, it's a cluster of 3 computing nodes. Each computing node contains a CPU, a GPU, and a QPU. So they're intrinsically hybrid, and then they're parallelized across the 3 nodes. And that enables a platform for understanding what does it mean for classical and quantum processors to work together, what is the methods and architectures to manage that, and then how does that foresight what the future of quantum high-performance computing is, and in particular that vision of massively parallelized quantum computers for machine learning and molecular dynamics simulation. So other world firsts that we've done in the integrated chip side is this atomically precise fabrication of qubits in diamond. And so I invite you to take a look at the technical papers that describe this process. as I've got the link there on the page. And on the right-hand side, there is not only a key design tool, which is around how to actually emulate the performance of these chips in a way that's truly practical in terms of designing performant quantum computers. And this is our virtual QPU. So this is one that encodes the noise and timing models of our chips so that you get a genuine understanding of their performance so that you can infer what is required to deliver against different applications. And this is something we're quite proud of. Through our partnership with NVIDIA, we've achieved a GPU acceleration of this emulator to a very high-performant tensor network simulator, which outperforms some industry standards, such as the AER tensor network simulator, for the simulation of noisy qubits. And so you can see a performance plot there, which shows you the runtime versus the qubit number. So with that, I'll draw it to a close. I'm very proud that Quantum Brilliance was the ice cream sponsor with our very cheesy but delectable tagline, which was that your ice cream is colder than our qubits, which is something I think we'll keep using in the future. So thank you for your attention.